Greetings everyone, this is your comprehensive Zoom tutorial and we'll be looking at lots of things about how you start a meeting, how you host a meeting, how you deal with pupils, and I'm going to be abled and assisted by the lovely Bonnie and the lovely Emma have joined us today. Wave everyone. And we're going to be showing you all of the different features that Zoom has for you to use in your lessons or your department meetings or whatever. So the first thing you need to do is, I would strongly advise that you install Zoom. You can get it through the browser, but you're going to have more features and it's going to work easier if you actually install it to your computer or to your tablet. And when you load it up, it will give you the option to start a meeting, which should be an orange button that's here on the screen behind me. It doesn't say start a meeting for me because I'm currently in a meeting, but you click start a meeting and then it will put you on your own into a meeting. So you'll probably be looking at a picture of yourself. And this is a good opportunity for you to sort out whether your camera and your microphones are correct. So if you look down the bottom left-hand side here, you can see that I'm talking because the microphone is going up and down, and you can see a little camera here that says stop video. At any point, I can mute myself by doing that, so the little line goes through it, and I can also turn off my camera by pressing that, and I can turn them back on. So and Emma and Bonnie can do the same thing, so they could turn their cameras off and their microphones off. I think if they turn their microphones off, if they could just do that for a second, if they mute themselves, you can see whether they're muted because you get that little symbol next to them that says that they're muted, and you can also see it in the chat. Thank you guys. You can unmute yourself there. Yeah, and if your computer has more than one microphone or camera attached, if you click the little arrow next to the button there, you can then choose all the different kind of cameras or bits of software that you've got on it, and the same there goes for the microphone. There's also a thing that Zoom does which is quite unusual, is it has this thing where it says you have to connect to the computer audio. So sometimes you get people joining and they say that they can't hear anything and you can't hear them, and there's often a button somewhere down here that says join audio or join computer audio. Just so if you can't hear anything, look around for that button that says join audio or join computer audio. The nice thing about Zoom is that you can see lots of people at the same time. As you can see here, we're currently looking at all of us, and that's because we're in something called gallery view. If I change to speaker view, then I can see the person that most recently spoke that is not me, which currently is Emma. And if you want to see everyone at the same time, then you need to press the gallery view button. If you're on a tablet, then it looks like a kind of like a grid, like a kind of like 9 little boxes, and you kind of click that, and it can change over. Depending on what you're doing, you might want to have different things at different times. So you can see what it is. But you're going to need some friends, or you're going to need some students in your Zoom meeting. And the way you do that is you need to invite people in or give them the link. Now, down the bottom of the screen, you should have all these buttons. But if the window is slightly smaller, you have less and less buttons. Now, you can get to the buttons by clicking more, or if you want to, you can just drag out the window and you can see more of the buttons. But there's lots and lots of buttons down the bottom that you will probably want to try and get yourself to. And there's a very useful button here that says Manage Participants that we're going to be doing quite a few things in. But also down the bottom of this Manage Participants panel is the Invite button. Now, when you first start a meeting, something will probably pop up and say, hey, invite people to your meeting, and you can just click that. But if you've missed that, then you can go here and you can click Invite. And if you've got any contacts or emails, then you can do it directly. But the way I do it is I click these buttons down the bottom that says copy URL or copy invitation. If you do copy URL, then you get a clickable link that people can click on, and then you can just send that straight, and people can click that and come straight in. So if I click copy URL, it's copied it to my clipboard, and then I could go to something like Teams or even a Firefly page, and I could just copy that link on there, and they can click on it and they can go in. But sometimes people prefer to join using the room name and the password, and if you do that, I'll just load up Notepad so you can see. So if I paste it at the moment, you get this clickable link which looks like that, and people can click on that. If I now click copy invitation and then press paste into Notepad, it gives this kind of full thing here where it says join Zoom meeting. It gives the link again, and this time it gives the meeting ID and the password as well. So you've got two different ways. What I've been doing in lessons is I've actually been putting in both. I put the URL in first and say, hey, click here, and then I put the username and password, because there's always at least one student I found that's like, what's the password? I can't get in. So I tend to kind of put in both, but there's probably lots of different ways of doing it. And then hopefully people will start to join. Now, some people have been saying that Zoom isn't very, very secure. You might have seen stories on the news saying that there's been security issues with Zoom. So what Zoom has done in response is that they have automatically put passwords in everyone's meeting, and they have made waiting rooms mandatory. So we were playing around a little bit earlier, and basically we've all joined the meeting twice. So although there's only 3 of us, there's actually 6 of us. And you will get a little notification at the bottom saying, hey, there's someone in your waiting room, do you want to let them in? And so what you do is you click Manage Participants, and then that little window there should kind of pop up. And by the way, if you want to close that at any point, you just click that little arrow there and you can say close, and you can bring it up here. And you can see at the moment we have 3 participants in the meeting, which is myself, Bonnie, and Emma. And then just to confuse things, we have 3 people in the waiting room, which is myself, Bonnie, and Emma. And then what we do is that you can choose to admit them or remove them. So let's say there's someone there joining who don't want to be in the meeting, I can just remove them and depart them, or I can admit them in. So if I let the other Emma and the other Bonnie in, we should see that 2 more screens will appear, and then you'll probably get to see their kind of like their shoulder view or whatever it is, or the window. And you see that bit at the bottom there where it says that they're connecting to audio. That's that like weird connecting to audio thing that they'll need to make sure that they can do to kind of see everyone. And you can see that there's still there 1 person in the meeting room, which I can send them in, or I can so on. Now, let's say you get 1 student that's misbehaved a little bit. Let's say Emma, one of the Emmas has been naughty. If you wanted to temporarily remove them, give them a little bit of time out, or maybe like their parents are lawn mowing in the background or something, there's a few things you can do. Like you can actually mute other people in the meeting, and I'll come back to that a little bit later. But if you really need to remove someone from the meeting, you can actually just send them back to the waiting room. So if you click, you have this participants button again. If you click under more, you can send someone back to the waiting room temporarily, so you can control that. There's Bonnie's little soft toy. That's beautiful. Okay, so what else was I going to talk about? So that's the waiting room. If you want to turn the whole waiting room thing off, there's a button down here that says security. If you click on that, as you can see at the moment, it says enable waiting room, and there's a tick on it. If I remove that tick, then the waiting room will just turn off. Also, at the moment, it says allow participants to share screen, chat, and rename themselves. Now, obviously, with staff, you can probably leave those things on, but probably if I was doing a lesson on Zoom, I would probably turn all 3 of those things off. Actually, no, I probably wouldn't. No, I'd probably turn off share screen, but I'd probably leave chat and rename themselves, because it's quite useful to have the chat, because if a student's microphone isn't working, then it's quite useful for them to be able to type, and so on. So those options are there if you want to use them, and there's another thing there where you can remove the participants. Right, so we've done audio, we've done waiting rooms, virtual backgrounds. Right, people keep asking me how you can change your background. Basically, you go into your Zoom settings, which is somewhere in here. So so not in the Zoom window itself, but in the original settings window, you click the little cog, and it brings up this panel here, which gives you all sorts of options about sharing your screen and chatting. But there's a button that says virtual background, and this is where you can, in theory, choose another background. But it does depend. Big asterisk here. It depends what's behind you. If you've got like a plain background behind you of a decent color, then it will probably be able to pick it up and replace your background. But if you've got a very busy background, it probably won't work. So there you go. So if I try it for myself, it's now put me into space, I think. Am I in space? I am in space. Now, let's say you didn't like that background and you wanted to get your own. You can. Do you guys want to give it a go? Do you want to see will it work for you? Maybe. You can choose your own. If you see a little plus here, you can add image or even a video. So if you want like footage of the Allied forces invading France to be there behind you, or some sort of slow motion video of something, then you can put it like maybe Chariots of Fire, slow motion running just going on in the background. You can put it there, or you can put a still image. But you wonder, of course, if you start mucking about with virtual backgrounds, your students will do the same. So you to consider whether you really want to be doing that. But it is quite a nice feature. And if you want to turn it off, then you just click back on none and so on. But I would probably, if I was you, I would play with that before you go into the meeting, because it will work for some people and not others. And also it does depend on your device. I think some devices don't have virtual background, full stop. Did it work for either of you? You can't? Okay, well, it's exciting. Right, virtual backgrounds. Right, so now you can control the people in the meeting. Now, there is a button down the bottom of participants. There is a button that says mute all. Now, this doesn't apply to me because I am the host. Can you see it says host after my name here? If I click mute all, it's going to mute everyone else in the call. And there's an optional button here that says allow participants to unmute themselves. Now, we have a pretty nice school with lovely behavior. And what I tend to do with my ones is I tend to mute them, but let them unmute themselves if they want to ask a question. If you have a class that you don't trust quite as much, then you might want to actually have you choose when you want to unmute them. But if I click this, for example, I click mute all, allow participants to unmute themselves, I'll press it, and you can see now that everyone else should have now have that little muted option there. I think these two don't because they haven't connected to the audio, I think is how it worked it, but they should be able to unmute themselves. So Bonnie and Emma, if you could try and unmute yourselves, we should see again the red little microphone there disappeared from Bonnie and disappeared from Emma as well. So that's how you do that. But they can have a little kind of hands up function. Now my year 7s, bless them, they actually just like to put their hands up, like they like to physically put their hands up. But you can actually do it through this reactions thing down here. They all have a button that says reactions where they can raise their hand or they can clap or they can put thumbs up. So Bonnie and Emma, if you could maybe press some of those buttons, and so what we should see is as they press the different reactions, you can see there Bonnie there's a little clap thing appearing. Emma's put a hand up. If I don't want to answer a question, I can just lower her hand and slap that back down and not answer that one. There's also, if you turn them on, play through the options, but there's also things in the participants list where you can like have a vote, yes, no, go slower, go faster, and in extra options there's I need a toilet break and go away. So you can see Bonnie's there's just click the tick and it now says number 1 under the yes. So you could have a class vote. You could say, shall we learn history today, or shall we watch an episode of Teletubbies, and then they can vote or whatever. The go slower goes faster means like, sir, you're going too fast, or sir, you're boring us to tears. Looks like Emma's voted for a coffee break. No, but it's Bonnie as well. Bonnie is happy and wants a coffee break, and so on. So those reactions are really kind of nice, and it again provides a bit more interactivity for the pupils. So that's that one. Right, chat. Bonnie, do you want to talk? How does this chat thing work? You were telling me about. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, otherwise you can have an awkward situation where you're just teaching one student for a long period of time. And you can optionally there in those security options where it says allow participants to chat, rename themselves, you can disable the student's ability to message each other privately, because you could have a situation where they're talking to each other privately during your lesson. However, let's be honest, even if you disable it, they're going to be doing it on WhatsApp anyway, so I'm not sure how much it affects their lives. But you can disable that if you think that might be an issue. You can also message everyone in the waiting room. If there was any reason why you didn't want to admit people just yet, I don't know why that would happen, but for argument's sake, you can message people in the waiting room saying, haha, you missed it, or whatever it might be, or that staff meeting this morning where just half of us had to just wait outside awkwardly. So that's how you chat and do private chat. Have I missed anything else? Oh, sharing your screen. Okay, so big green button in the middle. Okay, so sharing your screen, very similar to Zoom. When you click share screen, you get lots of options. You can share an entire monitor, an individual program, a desktop, a whiteboard, etc., and you can even share files. So it's worth having a little bit of a play through the various options and seeing exactly what you can share. So I could share my entire screen or my second screen. I could put up a whiteboard. I could share. I've got a little a document here that I'm working through the list of things I want to talk about, and I could just share that with them. There's also a very important button here where it says share computer sound. So I was talking to one of the music teachers earlier in the week, like if you had a situation where you wanted to share your desktop and you wanted to play them a music file, or let's say you wanted to play a video to the kids, you would need to turn that on. You would need to share your computer sound with them. Normally you would probably have that off, but depending on what you're sharing, you might want to have that on. In advanced, you can even share just a portion of your screen or stuff from another camera. You can even share stuff from Dropbox, Google Drive, and from OneDrive. So it's incredibly versatile, very, very powerful. powerful, and lots of things that you can do there. And if you're very careful, like obviously sharing a monitor can be really, really good, but be warned, of course, then anything on that monitor will be broadcast to the kids. So it's safer to pick an individual program or an individual file or whatever. And if you watch my other video, then earlier I was talking about how to do dual monitors and so on. So that's sharing the screen. And oh yeah, and annotations. Let me show you. You might want to use this. If I make this screen I'm going to share. This is probably going to look awful, but I'm going to share the screen that you're currently looking at with the other participants here. And what I should be able to do somewhere is annotate on that individual screen. Am I showing the wrong screen here? I don't know what I'm. There you go. You can annotate on your screen. Once you've shared your screen, you can kind of draw on it. So you can see here I'm drawing on the yellow thing, but the participants from the meeting can do the same thing as well. So Emma and Bonnie, if you could give that a go. There we go. So that little circle that's just appeared behind me, I didn't draw that. Someone else did. And they're drawing a little smiley face. Ah, it's cute. And someone's written hello just behind my head. And of course, you have the option to turn that off and on. And if you go through the options of sharing and annotating, you can say just you or everyone can do it. So it depends on the size of your class, but it is fun and it's a nice way again of acting together. There is an option where you can let them control your computer. I wouldn't suggest you allow pupils to do that, but there might be an activity you want to put up on the board and you might want to let a student control it for a minute. You know, that would work too. And then when you're ready to stop sharing, there's a big red button at the bottom that says stop sharing. It wasn't appearing on my screen for some reason, it was on the other one, but that's where you do it. Right, we're almost there. Last thing, breakout rooms. Breakout rooms are awesome. Now, it's down the bottom here, breakout rooms. If you can't see the option, now I know when I was going through the individual settings, I turned it on so I could see it. So if I go back to just the Zoom chat again, so this is like the original Zoom window, there's that cog, and I know I turned that on somewhere. So you should be able to see it, but if you can't, have a look there or ask me and I'll find it for you. Now, what a breakout rooms is basically you can send students off into groups, small groups, and then when you're ready, you can go and visit those individual rooms, and when you're ready, you can close all the rooms and bring everyone back to your original lesson. So let's say this is the beginning of the lesson, I'm introducing the topics, blah, 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 then I want to send them off to work in groups of 3. I will then go and visit those individual groups of 3 for the next 10 minutes, and then when I'm finished, I bring everyone back to the end and we go, hey kids, what did we learn? And it's pretty self-explanatory. So you click breakout rooms, and what do you do? So it'll come up with this one to begin with. And you say how many rooms you want. So if you only have 1 room, then you're not really doing anything, but 2 rooms, 3 rooms, 4 rooms, you choose how many rooms you want, and then most importantly, you choose whether you want it to be automatic or manual. If you do it automatic, then the program will just chuck people out into random rooms. If you do it manually, then you choose who goes where. So I'm gonna make 3 rooms and I'm gonna click manual, recreate the rooms, and I've now got breakout room 1, 2, and 3, and I click assign on each one, and then I can choose who I want to go in there. So just to be fun, I'm going to have Bonnie and Bonnie in one room, I'm going to have Emma and Emma in the next room, and then I'm going to have me in the other room. Now, you're the host, so you don't get assigned to a room, because you can move freely between them. And then as soon as you click open all rooms, it says at the top there, all participants have been invited to join breakout rooms. So what we'll probably see here is that Bonnie and Emma will disappear in a second because they'll be just going into their breakout room. Or we'll just stand here awkwardly. But basically they can go off, they can do their work together, and get all those their kind of tasks done. And then you've got a couple of options here in that you can broadcast a message to all, which will send it to all the rooms. So I could click something like 5 minutes until we finish. I could click that and I can broadcast that, and it sent it to all of the different rooms. Or I can click on this room here. So I could go and join breakout room 1, and it will take a minute to kind of get you in because it's leaving one room and it's joining the other. And it's probably now sent me into a breakout room, and it says I'm now in a breakout room, and hopefully in a second we'll see I'm here with Bonnie and Bonnie. If that it may work, it may not work, but you should after a minute or so get in there with whoever is in the breakout room with you. When you're finished with that, you then click leave the breakout room and return to the main session. Again, it's saying it might take a few moments, so the more you've got going on, the slower it is. It's telling me I'm now in the main session, and then when I'm ready, I've lost the breakout rooms button again, I can also then close all the rooms, and that little red button back there says close all rooms, and then it gives everyone a chance to it gives everyone 60 seconds, I think, to close their breakout room and come back. Otherwise it will force them to come back for them. And so what we should see here is that the people will leave the different breakout rooms at various points. And I think that's it. I think that's Zoom. And then, of course, when you're ready, you click End Meeting. And it will give you the option. It will say to you, do you wish to actually end the meeting, or do you just want to leave? And normally you will want to completely end the meeting and shut it down for everyone else as well. One last thing, say you were doing a joint teaching lesson. So say I was teaching with Bonnie and Emma, I could make them host as well. So if I click on, I think they've been muted there, so I can unmute them. I'm not sure why that happened, but I can click on them and I can make Emma the host as well. So at the moment we're now joint hosts, but obviously that gives them a lot of power, and they could start kicking each other out and so on. But that does in theory work. Have I missed anything out? Don't think so. So enjoy your Zooming with the kids. Oh, recording. We missed out recording. Okay, so there's a big button in the middle that says record. And again, if I shrink it down, you have to press the ... to get to the record button. Now, note, if you have a premium version of Zoom, which I think costs like a tenner or something like that, it'll record onto the cloud, and then you can just leave it up there. But if you press record otherwise, it will then just record to your computer. And I'll just press record for a minute and show you that it will say you have to ask permission from the meeting host, and because I made Emma a host as well, it'll ask permission, but that stops the kids recording it, which is good. But then once you record it, nothing will appear until you end the meeting. And when you end the meeting, it will then save it to your drive. And in the tutorial I made earlier, you can then upload it to Microsoft Stream or something like that, and you can kind of leave it there. I don't upload things with students to YouTube, but if it's just teachers or whatever, then of course you can. I believe you can actually record the meeting before you even go in when you schedule it. Someone was telling me earlier, if you schedule a meeting, you can set it up to be recorded before you even start, but I haven't played with that, so I'm not really sure. Cool, that's it. That's the end of the tutorial. Unless I've missed anything out, which I did before. Cool, thank you very much. Hope you found it useful. Let me know if you've got any questions.